For the first speaker in this session, we're listening to Alex from the Free Software Foundation, speaking about escaping the surveillance black hole with free mobile computing. Thank you, Alex. We look forward to listening to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for flying with us. This is your captain speaking. And we've just reached cruising speed, which means we're flying away. Which means we're flying away from the surveillance black hole at the speed of as fast as possible. In your viewer screens, you can now see, or maybe not see, the surveillance black hole. It's right there, believe me. People are often surprised that they can see anything, because they saw a picture of a black hole before and it didn't look like that. There was a halo around it. That halo is stuff that did not fall in the black hole. When it comes to the surveillance black hole, no data escapes. We're lucky that we're here. We're still outside, and we hope to remain outside. This has not been tried before, so thank you for flying with us. Please keep your seatbelt fastened and remain seated for the duration of the flight, because as you keep your mobile phones off, you will feel a sense of weightlessness. And you want to have the seatbelts on, otherwise it can get a little dangerous. The reason we call this project 0G is because that's the only way we could figure out to escape from the black hole. So please keep your phones with their baseband modems off and the surveillance applications off. That will help. Without that, you might be pulled back into the black hole. I'm going to talk to you. Oh, one more thing from the captain. The weather at our destination is awesome. You're going to love it if we get there. So I'm going to talk about surveillance devices like the ISORON. You might be familiar with this one. If you look at it from just the right angle, you can see a logo that you might recognize. Otherwise, it looks a little like a black hole as well. Anyway, the thing is that there are some very desirable features about these surveillance devices that we carry in our pockets and purses. And it's really hard to give them up. It occurred to me that maybe we could separate them and leave the surveillance and keep only the nice bits about them. And I believe I found a viable alternative to get us ultra-portable communicators without surveillance. And what's more, time is ripe to make them. So, let's. Our telescreens these days are portable. George Orwell imagined that we would have screens everywhere and they would be kind of like public infrastructure. But they're not. We pay for our own telescreens, and we carry them with us everywhere. And they got cameras, microphones, biometrics, GPS, and all sorts of surveillance and data collection technologies. They're always listening, they're always online. And people often install apps that pretend to do useful stuff for the user, while they're actually gathering more and more information and sending it, the information, to not just one big brother, but lots of them. It's like a black hole. this is a picture from the original shooting of 1984. In the theme of 1984, we can see that smart is dumb. SMART actually stands for surveilling most actions around tenant. You should remember that. Your data does not stand a chance of escaping this black hole in this model, in this computing model, the one designed by surveillance capitalism. And the thing, we have known this for a very long time. And yet, we can't help. Why can't we resist? Why do we keep on using these portable computers if they do so much surveillance on us? If they harm us so bad? Well, turns out there's very good bait in them. There are tons of very useful features that we like to have all the time, that we like to carry with us everywhere, and that we like to use from wherever we are. We are humans. We like to communicate. We love to keep up with friends, family, business partners, everyone. And this is very important. We love to, well, there are people who actually love to interrupt conversations, but others like to not interrupt them and look up on the internet data about what is being talked about. So this happens. This is useful. There are maps. When you're in a city that you don't know, you haven't been there before, you want to find your way to some place that you've never visited before. It's very nice to get not just a map. If you're driving, you want directions to get there. And this is really useful. Karen Sandler and Bradley Kuhn had a great speech about that at FOSDEM this year. And I thank them for inspiring me to prepare this speech. And more than that, to think seriously about the problem that they talked about and try to figure out a way to fly away from the surveillance black hole. The thing is, all of these interesting and very useful applications are available as free software. Maybe not the ones that most people use, but the features are available with free software. So we could have those features without the surveillance. Now, the problem is that even the devices, the hardware devices themselves are problematic. We were, the free software community was the first to create smartphones. The OpenMoko company launched a number of phones. I still use it. This is my phone. And it's great. It's a phone, and I can run GNU on it. And I can run all sorts of applications on it, even a compiler, to build more stuff. Now, many of these devices are problematic. Like, if you want Wi-Fi, you may need a blob that might be doing stuff you don't want. If you use the baseband modem, GSM or LTE or whatever, 5G maybe, you are exposed to attacks from the other side. They can send you your phone directions to install and run any applications. Replicant people found that out. So these are dangerous pieces of technology. They were not designed to serve us. They were designed to trick us into using them and carrying them so that we can be surveilled and our data can be collected and sold. We know that. I used to think before Karen and Bradley's speech that, well, if I want these features, if I want a phone that people can reach me at anywhere I am, there's no escaping. I have to carry one of these devices. Because, you know, the phone operator has to know where you are in order to deliver messages to you, in order to deliver calls to you, right? Right? Nope. That's what it occurred to me. We have Tor. Are you familiar with Tor? With Tor, you can not just browse the web anonymously. You can run servers on Tor, in the Tor network. You can run onion services. There is a very famous one for the Pirate Bay. Who knows where the Pirate Bay server is? Well, as long as it's running on the Tor network, nobody does. Well, maybe those who run it know, you'd think. But nobody else needs to know. We just use an onion address to reach it, and the network will arrange for the requests to find their way to the actual server. And whoever delivers the message to the server does not even know that they're talking to the Pirate Bay server, and vice versa. So we can do that. We can use Tor onion services on our ultra-portable communicators. I need a better name for that, by the way. So we can use Tor in our freedom boxes. There was a speech about that just 2-3 hours. Nathan talked about that 3 hours ago. We can set up our freedom boxes at home to listen on the Tor network, and then we can connect to them from our portable devices. Even if our servers back home are behind a NAT, network address translation, it doesn't matter. Tor figures that out for us. So imagine that your portable communicator has an onion address, and that's your phone number. You send that to your acquaintances, friends, anyone who might want to call you, and then they will reach you through that address. And then you can configure the phone. I keep calling it a phone, but it's not really. But it's acting as a phone. You can configure the computer to respond to an incoming call in different ways, depending on whether it's someone you're very close friends with, or someone in family that you would like to speak with very low latency. Then the call can get through directly, encrypted ideally. If it's telemarketing, then, well, just don't let the call through. If it's someone else you don't know, then, well, let's deal with the latency, but you don't want to reveal where you are. So that call might go through Tor somehow. I haven't figured out all of the details, but I'm sure we can, working together. There's a black canvas on your viewer screens. Not right now, but you might remember from the first slide. And I need your help to figure out these details. Now, there's another side to the data link that the operator can use to track you. Namely, you have to be connected to their network to set up the audience service. So that wouldn't work to avoid tracking. The phone company would still know where you are. So the only way I could figure out to actually solve that problem is do not use this technology anymore. It's designed for surveillance. Let's ditch that. Let's do away with the phone company controlled communication. Let's build our own networks. Let's use community Wi-Fi. Some 12, maybe a little more than that, years ago, the OLPC, One Laptop Per Child project, built this beautiful laptops for children. Very cute indeed, very usable, very portable, and they had a mesh networking feature. They were designed for school children to use, and when they went home, the one that lived closer to the school would be able to connect to the school network, and their laptop would spread the connection around so that the kids that lived further away would still be able to connect, and so on. I loved that idea back then. I think we can do that. There's this stuff in most Wi-Fi chips. They can do ad hoc networking without infrastructure. There are even a number of projects that are building on this idea I learned since I started thinking about this. So it's doable. Let's work on that. Let's try to figure out ways to extend open networks that are available in several places already. And let's build community. Bootstrap a free network communication service for everyone. We need these devices to run only free software. Otherwise, well, any piece of proprietary software in there is today surveillance software. I mean, these days, all proprietary software, or nearly all proprietary software, is surveillance software. Let's not take that risk. Let's run only free software. Nowadays, we can aim for having free hardware as well. We can use such stuff as RISC-V, or Caninus Locus, or things along these lines. I mean, there are degrees of freedom that we can pursue. There are trade-offs maybe to be made, but I think it would be lovely to actually have free hardware to run free software and talk to a free network, to talk to free people. And time is ripe for that. All of the components are ready, readily available, or nearly so. We can today print hardware at one of the best universities in Brazil. Maybe a few years from now we'll be able to do that in smaller universities. And a few years down the road we can do that at home. But right now it's viable. We can do that. I mean, 10 years ago when OpenMoco started, that was hard. They had to do huge volumes. We can do, it's more reasonable, more in reach now. So let's give it a try. What CPU must we use? That's to be figured out. There are several choices available. What GPU? I don't know. Several of the ARM-based ones are problematic. I understand a number of the problems are on the way to be solved, thanks to the people working on that. Wi-Fi. I don't know. ATH9K HTC is one of the answers that I have for that. I have no clue of how to build that into one of these devices. I hope we don't have to carry separate dongles to get Wi-Fi. But let's see, let's look into that. GSM or baseband or LTE or however you want to call it. I don't know the proper way to refer to these surveillance pieces. I would keep that out of the equipment. If you really want it, maybe someone will provide separate pieces that you can plug onto your free portable communicator. Some are being built right now that have the ability for you to power off the surveillance piece. That's a good development. We can actually use those devices at least for the development of a really free solution. One thing that I think would be really cool, are you familiar with IOMA 68? It's a PCMCI card that is a full computer, and you can put it inside one of these laptop cases. Well, this is the computer. You can put it in one of these cases, and then it runs as a laptop. You put it in one of the other cases, and it runs as a desktop computer that can plug into a screen and a keyboard and a mouse and stuff like that. Well, how about we make a phone-like case and put it in? Oh, it doesn't have Wi-Fi, this one. Well, maybe we can put the Wi-Fi on the case, just like the screen and the camera. Do we want a camera? Probably. Why not? If the system is all free software, then the user would control the camera. That's okay. Who would want one of these devices that you can put it in your phone, you take it out, you put it in your computer, you put it in your desktop, and then you put it in your pocket and go to work, and there you have your computer with you all the time. You can come to a presentation. You don't have to bring this huge piece of equipment. You can just plug it into the projector, and it goes. I think that would be so cool. So I have sort of, kind of a business plan to get there. If you were actually into business, don't believe any of this. I haven't done any actual market research. I just know what I want. And I'm going to build the thing that I want. But if it can serve others, well, even better, right? So OLPC was made for kids, but it was sold in large quantities to governments. It was very robust because kids will drop it on the floor. Like this phone is robust. There. It's still working. Well, the battery went out. Gee, I was not supposed to get in front of the sponsors. I'm sorry. It was for a good cause. So, please, still work. Yeah, fine. It's booting up. It'll take a while. But it's alive. See? It's alive. I hope. Very robust technology. I think using something like this, it's big and it's small at the same time. We can redesign this, but I think this is a great design. But we have to make it cute for the kids. we may have to adjust all of the software that we have to run on touch screens well. I'm sure that the people preparing phones with GNU right now are working on that. So let's work with them. Let's make GNU run well on touch screens. OLPC made it repairable by the kids. They could replace the battery, just like I did on my phone. It's easy. Nowadays, You can't even take out the battery from most of the phones on the market. That's a shame. I would focus on cost. I wouldn't worry so much about getting the latest and greatest stuff that will make it too expensive for most people, especially in developing countries, where we would stand a chance of selling several units to governments to offer to kids at schools. And the argument is, well, who would force surveillance technology onto school kids? Right? This would, I think, would be a very powerful argument to offer these technologies that I have in mind, the free technologies. Now, there's a lot of education going on at schools these days. I would rather we steered kids away from that sort of technology. And one way we could use to do that is to have a very strong copyleft piece of userland software in the operating system of these devices. That would keep, legally, a lot of the surveillance technologies away from it, which is something that I would like. But I'm not sure that strong copyleft would be the right tool for that. So this is another decision that should be discussed and figured out. Maybe it's even too late for that, because, as I said, there are people working on these ports of GNU for smart screens, touch screens, sorry, that do not have exactly these concerns in mind. But what I envision is a device that will offer privacy and plenty of peer-to-peer applications, and that these devices could help create a pervasive network that everyone could plug into. And that would set the stage for more expensive devices to be, with these features, to be targeted at people who can actually buy them themselves. So there's sort of how I believe this could be brought to market. Now, OLPC also taught us, or at least me, a number of lessons that we should keep in mind, or whoever sets out to make the hardware devices out. There were partners, they had partners even in their board who had very strong conflicts of interest. And this was very detrimental to the project. A number of deals with governments were undercut by the so-called partners who had their own devices to sell. This was a problem. They had big enemies. And the saying goes that we should keep the friends close and enemies closer. But that was probably what they did as opposed to what OLPC did. And it didn't turn out too well for us. There will be first opposition. Phone services are certainly going to fight this, because where do they enter the picture? Well, they may enter the picture, actually. There's this service that not everyone is familiar with, I suppose. Jump.chat will offer you a phone number that you can be reached at, or get texts at, and it will forward texts to an XMPP address of your choice. And it will forward incoming calls to a SIP address of your choice. And you can initiate calls and send texts as well. So it's a bridge. Phone companies could offer these sort of services without having to provide the infrastructure. It might turn out better for them. But I'm sure they're going to fight this. Anyway, hardware manufacturers might also fight it because they are used to selling high-end pieces of equipment. And I'm suggesting we go the other way here. So there will be opposition there. Let's find manufacturers that are interested in undercutting the others and work with them. And then the thing to remember, why am I doing this? I mean, I need a communicator for myself, or I want one, really bad. And I guess a lot of you would also be happy to have one of these. And a lot of people out there who nowadays find themselves, oh, I wish there was one, but there isn't, so I have to use these others anyway. I bet, and I'm betting really, that if we offer them something that will protect their privacy, a number of them will switch, will prefer this technology that we can offer, even if it's not as shiny as the other. So, in a way, I'm doing this to change the world for the better. OLPC failed, ultimately, but it also succeeded. They started netbooks, and those lasted for several years. They changed the way the industry worked for quite a long time when you think of the technology clock speed. So it sounds worth giving it a shot, even if we fail. If in the end, a lot of the industry ends up offering free, as in freedom, technology, because we sparked this fire, I'll be very happy. And there's more. If we can decentralize on that this way, if we can grow organic Wi-Fi communities, a lot of innovation will follow. The industries will depend on the wide availability of community Wi-Fis. And then we won't lose that again, I hope. We have to work on that. Freedom works like that. If we don't value it, if we don't fight for it, we end up losing it. So let's give it a shot. Let's try to put together this combination of Tor and expanding Wi-Fi networks and free hardware devices that possibly even that you can use instead of your laptop today, or as something that will complete your laptop today. And with that, we can hopefully escape the surveillance black hole. This project, 0G, is looking for a home. We have an IRC channel on Freenode. I set it up last night. I published an announcement and an invitation for collaboration. Please join us. Please help build this dream into reality. Thanks for flying with us.
If there's any questions, there's a standing mic.
If you don't have any, I do.
Is the standing microphone working? Okay. Keep your mouth closer to the mic, please.
Okay. My question is
I can hear you now.
Okay, is that I found that the many companies doing open source, start using open source term here because they are not following a free software principle, but like they are doing open source stuff for side projects that that does harm to the free software community, like surveillance or like mass surveillance, or they are adopting some open core models like that. So, do you think if can the grassroots communities can grow stronger than the power of business?
I totally believe in the notion that the best way to get out of the mess that we got ourselves into is to work with communities, grassroots efforts. And that's why, one of the reasons why I chose to launch this project here, because Debian is just an amazing community of free software developers and lovers and people who enjoy doing this sort of stuff. So I believe that's the way to go. But we obviously need to get companies involved as well, somehow. We just have to be careful. It's tricky. It's often a tricky balance. Companies want to make money. Okay, we have to offer them ways to make money without harming our goals, harming our values. So we have to watch out for that, certainly. Did I answer a question? I couldn't quite understand all of it, or any of it, maybe.
Is the microphone working? Okay. So it's like some companies doing projects like, okay, did you mean that the question did not, the final question I was asking?
I'm sorry?
Did you mean the final question I was asking? Can grassroots communities, sorry, I understand your answer. So
yeah, that's what I try to answer, I think.
That's okay.
If I understood it correctly, I think.
So actually we need companies that can, so actually we need companies, but we have to be careful with companies if they try to,
yes, we have to have ways for them to make the money that they're created to make money, right? We have to find ways for them to achieve their goals without conflicting with our goals. That's lining up goals is usually the way to go about tricky stuff. If you have conflicting goals, it becomes harder. So hopefully we can line the interests up instead of fighting. Does it make sense?
Okay, understood.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's a question from IRC, from Luna.
Cool.
She asks, or she says that 0G on Freenode is invite only. Is that correct?
Sorry?
She says that 0G on Freenode is invite only.
Is it? Oh, it shouldn't be.
Okay.
I'll fix that.
Okay, either fix that or send her an invite, please, to join the channel.
I think I'll fix that after the talk.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks a lot for the warning.
Is there more questions?
First, a 5-minute and 2-minute introduction into the situation in Russia where I live. We have mostly government surveillance instead of corporate surveillance. And we have internet censorship. I'm running an open Wi-Fi access point on my home internet connection. No locks, no restrictions, and it also goes around censorship restriction. So people get real full-blown internet there. I'd like to start another activist project. So, well, it's doubtful if what I'm doing is legal in Russia, and it's undoubtful then that there's more than one way I could end up in jail for that. But I love the openness of the internet so much that I decided to take a risk. And I want open access points of this kind to be everywhere, especially in places where internet as such is restricted. Maybe this infrastructure can be useful for your project as well.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for running your open Wi-Fi, by the way. This is something that we need a lot more of. And I'm actually very concerned about how to get this project into the places that most need this, which are exactly where, well, there is most surveillance, where there's censorship, where this thing, there will be another piece of resistance against this from governments, as you mentioned, some governments. And I suppose the way to go about that is to, well, using Tor is quite a good way to make yourself almost invisible. Of course, that covers only one side of the equation. The other is, well, the government might figure out that you are the person running the open Wi-Fi, and they might want to stop you from doing that. So we have to act fast before they forbid it, and have a lot of people interested in doing and actually doing that, and businesses interested in using those customers, well, offering services to these customers, so that if the government decides to pull the plug, the people and the businesses will resist. That might work. So let's, well, I'm asking a lot of you, but let's give that a shot. I mean, you're already doing that. If you can find more people to do that too, that will sort of reduce the focus from just on you to, well, there's this entire community doing that. So maybe it'll be harder to stop. Maybe that will be, something that they wouldn't want to mess with. It's tricky. I'm concerned about that myself. I mean, I live here in Brazil, and we're not living good times here. So I'm often concerned about this sort of stuff. It's not happening today as far as I know, but it could start tomorrow. And so building these things and hooking powerful businesses on that is a strategy that has worked time and again to avoid terrible moves by some governments. And it's a tricky balance, because powerful businesses are also dangerous. So no perfect solution, I guess. But if we do nothing, then we lose freedom by default. So we have to try. If we fail, then we tried and failed. If we don't try, then we fail. There's no other possibility. We might succeed if we try. So, and going to jail, I suppose, is not nice. We should hope that it doesn't happen, and we should actually be prepared as a global community to make a lot of noise if such a thing should happen. I forget the name of this journalist in Moscow who was arrested on false charges recently. Thanks to a lot of noise. Oh, you have something to say about that?
It was Ivan Golunov,
Thank you.
journalist from Medusa.
Yep, exactly. Thank you. So, thanks to a lot of noise all over and presumably some goodwill from some important people in Russia, he ended up released. So let's hook the president into this network. I'm sorry, there's nothing much concrete there. It's tricky indeed. I wish there was an easy solution, but I don't think there is. Fighting for political battles is tricky. We have to, like, it's a war out there.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. That's as much time as we have today.
Well, thank you so much then. I hope to see you on the channel, or send me email if the channel remains blocked for whatever reason. And, well, thanks for flying with us.